So it's those responsibilities that I think we have, and that it is this fussy little business that I think we have to pay attention to all the time. Now, I grant a certain romanticism. Eternally, we enter mixed dances of early spring. I'm, I, I think history tailgates us, but I think we're always in this complexity
I don't
of
find that
what's going
romantic. I
on.
find it accurate.
Yeah, well, okay.
And no, I think it's most interesting poem. I don't know. I don't know what Alan would have made of it. That's another matter altogether, of course. But what interests me is the issue of the function of the of that there may be a difference. I don't know enough about. I don't know anything about Hopi nothing. But I only know in fact what I've heard you tell me and what I read in the poems. But the
And what
issue,
you experienced at Hopi Land.
yes, well, very brief. But my feeling is that it will be interesting to explore, and I'm certainly not going to go any further than this, what the relationship between opposition and a clown is. And secondly, it would interest me to think about it anyway, that is what in another poem you have in the book, you have,
Yeah.
you have two references, in fact it's two poems, which I think will be interested, to repeat myself, this relationship between the clown and some kind of oppositional action, and the clown and the permission of the clown, as it were, the function
Right,
of the clown to do
right. Those are
that.
critical issues in Hopi,
Exactly.
and I think they have
And as
parallels
you
for
know,
us
I'm
in our own
deeply
lives.
concerned with
Yeah.
comedians. I've done a lot of work on American comedians along
Yeah.
these lines. All that in connection with two things. This one saying the Kachinas dance this dance, the blessing way, adding spirit beauty, singing. Circle of life at the center of the universe.
Right.
And another point one would have to add here is in planting blue corn
Ah, yeah.
is, well, you'll know the point where I'm picking it up. Ready for what needs to be done now, day by day. Mind attention to my weeded field, feeling centered harmony.
Hmm.
Now, my feeling is that the only way a culture, I mean, I really mean the only way a culture can speak, as it were, through your poems here in that particular way, is to have a tremendous security that there, and the word is in that last poem, balanced,
Hmm.
that there's a fundamental balance in which they can take a large number of risks of opposition.
Hmm.
That is where I think that I've spoken to you the other day about these poems generating a sense of peace, peacefulness, I should say, not peace, peacefulness, where I find the thing exemplary and moving in a certain way, and wonder what the application to one's own experience in life is along these lines. That sense of the security of centeredness, the security of tremendous confidence that whatever else is happening in the world, the Hopi culture is exemplary to the Hopi.
Yes.
Now that interests me a great deal because that seems to me to be something which no Western European society, and again I won't speak for America, could afford to say that.
Let's
To see,
take
to
that.
see the
Yeah.
angle, and I'm speaking as a man certainly officially opposed to the structure of the West as is. I mean, either communist or capitalist, very, very profoundly indeed, I hope, without knowing what an alternative would be that would give the same security that the right, capitalist or communist right, offers, is said to offer, and is
Yeah.
accepted said to offer to its people. So the whole business of centeredness and confidence is raised very, very importantly in your Hopi poems, if I
Yeah.
may put it like that.
Well, I think they're exemplary not only to the Hopi, but I think they can be for any of us that pay attention to the issues at hand. I'd like to approach it through the clown. and where that comes in, because so much of my writing and so much of my activity at Hopi is involved with the clowning. Now, the clowning is a priesthood. It's also a lay fraternity. So you have a number of different kinds of clown. Now, the left-handed Kachina is a clown, and is in
Yeah, well, I
the
understood
priesthood.
that from the poem, sure.
The Mudhead that I started with in this series was my first introduction, and Hoes and some of the other clowns are. The Kusharis that are the black and white striped ones are lay clowns. In fact, they appear in the social dances. Now, they have a special permission to do anything, but they have to pay for it at the end. And let me first tell you about their obligations, and then let me tell you about a kind of formula that they go through. The obligation or the responsibility of the clown, and this is why Mudhead is so important to me, is to entertain, to educate, and to comfort in sorrow, as well as to instruct in a sense of morality and not just educate in a general sense, but particularly in terms of moral responsibility and to give us some sense of spiritual harmony in our lives. Now, they do this variously by enacting all kinds of routines. When the clowns come in the plaza dances that occur in the springtime, this is after the moon of purification. I can't get too complicated because it goes on, it all so woven together. But in the spring, in the first plaza dances, at sunrise, the clowns enter into the plaza on the first day. They crawl on their hands and knees across the rooftops. And the first stage of their appearance is the enactment of the child. They pee in their pants, they crawl over the roofs, and they do all kinds of childish things. And as they go through these enactments, which would, I'm sure, to proper British people would, and puritanical America, find gross that somebody would pee on top of somebody's head from the rooftop. But you see, that's a great blessing because of what it in fact represents, and that is that in the Southwest, where they have so little rain and waterfall, the clown then makes a presumption of being a god and giving the wealth of moisture to the peoples on earth. Well, it's terrible to get peed on, but we make that reference when we get rained on. But we're very thankful in the Southwest for snow and rain, for moisture. As I've said in one of my other poems, it's so true. Moisture is life in that region. So when someone spits on you, ritualistically, through the rites, as someone pours water over your head, as in the close of Planting Blue Corn, if you can quote that, the last line, when the mother comes in, the bear mother, Bear Clan mother, comes and pours water over our head as we're sitting down at the table. And you quote those last lines.
It says, our reply for our mother, she pours water on our heads, hair dripping rain on our humped backs.
Okay. The humped back is the reference to the Kokopelli, the humpback flute player.
Mm-hmm.
The water on our backs, and you know how long my hair was out there, because hair is symbolic of rain and spiritual power, and that's much the Kachinas have their hair cut in tiers, but very long. So all of those things have a spiritual significance in them. They're not taken as gross by the Hopis. But it's that first stage of the clowning which is in a child. Now, all the Shakespeareans would really be very interested in this. The Kachinas go through 7 stages. Those 7 stages that they go through are the 7 developments of the human. All the men and women are merely players, and our acts are 7, right? That's as you like it? I'm quoting correctly, I hope, from the Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely. Probably not. That doesn't matter. The references are a good parallel. So anyway, they go through these 7 stages. So then you have the adolescent and et cetera, and then you go through the adult, and then you go through the old age, and then you go through the dying stage. Now, they can do anything they want during this period. They have total permission to get away with anything. Therefore, they play strip poker in the middle of a Kachina dance. They will go and grab women and bring them out into the plaza. They'll play horseshoes with a huge phallus. They'll take a young boy with an 18-inch phallus, lay him on his back, and pitch horseshoes at him in the middle, because a lot of it is quite sexual and highly erotic, but having to do with fertility and germination. And on and on and on and on and on. And they'll get drunk, and they'll go to powwows. They'll take photographs of kachinas. They'll do anything absurd. They'll do anything to poke fun at some actual human activity. They have votes in elections, and they stuff the ballot boxes, right? And then the mayor will go up and gets elected and will abuse his power and rake off the money and go to the bank, and then he and his cohorts, who are the ones that were opposing him, will get all the money out of the bank and go to town and spend it on getting laid and getting drunk and etc. And then they'll come back and they'll have a new election. They'll put somebody else in and they'll go through the whole routine again. They go on and on and on and on all through this activity. Now at the end of the activity, they get punished for this. They are thrown down into the middle of the plaza, and they are whipped with yucca, and they are doused with buckets and buckets and buckets of water, and they get stripped down, have all their clothes taken off, and are made naked again. So they go through what I suppose we have is the birth by water. You know, there's a baptism that takes place, in which then they're allowed to go on into the spirit kingdom with a purified soul. Now, on the other hand, what they've done during the day has been great frolic and great fun and entertainment, but it's all been concerned with instructional things. If there has been a man who has been running around with another woman, for instance, or been going into town and doing a lot of drinking, they'll use his name, and then one of the clowns will be that person, and another clown will be the wife. And then they'll ridicule the wife for putting up with it, because we're in a matrilineal society, you know, out there, and they certainly can do it. So the clowning goes through this over and over and over again for the 2 days. They go through these cycles, the birth and death cycle in the human activity. Now, that is interesting to me because there's a kind of peer pressure that takes place. When you get your name used in the middle of London, you know, at a huge gathering about all of your sins and evils, chances are you may do something to correct it. You may not. And if you don't, you continue to be ridiculed by your society and excluded from it. So there's an exclusion that takes place if there's no repentance or no modification of behavior in some way. Now, for the poet, it seems to me the poet has, for me, the poet of my conviction, has that same responsibility to present information about the activities of the world, our own behaviors, offer some comic relief about it, but to give an alternative way of living. So that finding this balance, finding the center, and having the confidence to say it, first means that you have to continually work on it yourself. Whether or not you ever get there is another issue, but you're continually in process. You're in the process of answering these questions. Who am I? What am I doing here? What are my relationships with other people? And that's what the poem addresses continually in the activities. And the images, although they're Hopi specific, the images taken as metaphor obviously address all of the issues that we have here. You know, left-handed Kachina asks, you know, was there never a time, a piece here, a piece there? You can't do it all in one shot, so you keep working at it. You're continually in this process of finding your own center, balancing your center, and trying to persuade other people to come along with you and to do something about who they are and what they're doing here. Now, the clowns, in that sense, are polarities to the Kachinas, because the Kachinas are absolutely centered and positive and not disruptive, and they're making very positive prayers for all peoples and all times, for rain. They have good thoughts, and the Kachinas at that moment are the most exemplary of the best of conduct for us, in the Hopi sense and metaphorically. The clowns, on the other hand, are doing everything they can do. They pull the Kachinas out of line, they give them a lot of shit, they check them out, they ask them questions all the time, they take them through interrogations. They're extremely abusive. But they ask them very pointed questions. You know, why should I bother paying attention to you? I mean, You're just going to go off and get what you want out of this. You know, what do you got for me? I want something. Come on, give me some. And the Kachina, of course, has to continue to stay centered and balanced and dance. So there is this polarity set up. Now, their polarity is a polarity of themselves because they're self-mocking continually. They are mocking themselves as clowns continually.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets then to be very, very complex in the sense that perhaps the most valuable thing they have to offer us is this issue of examination. Not the answer, not even the questions, but simply the process that we all go through, the issue of examination. And what are we going to do about what it is we're examining? And it's very complex. I mean, there's more esoteric things I can't talk about, obviously, and you could go on with their role in society. But they're highly respected. And very few people get chosen to be clowns. And you get no public recognition for it. So I don't know, I mean, how much you want me to go on?
No, I think it's very interesting because, you know, I don't have anything really to say. I mean, you take with one, I'm deeply concerned with the function of all that area of comedians, fools, clowns, and so on. It's always been a big function, of course, in Western society.
And it's also to give relief from tension. You know?
I mean, yeah, but
can't
also
take it all too
the fact that it's an edge. There's always an edge between how far is this figure permitted by his society and his audience to go until he's censored, or is he censored at all? What's the society that doesn't have any kind of parameters of control, whatever, and so forth? Which interests me a great deal because I think that's where the poet or the artist is to go back to our previous discussion, and that is the issue very much of the accessibility of these figures in any society to their audience. One of the things that I must be fascinated with in the 60s, 50s and 60s, not only the poets that we know, but the comedians as well, have done a lot of work on it, and given several talks on it. And again, I was fascinated by that audiences' responses in Britain to American comedians along these lines. So I'm deeply concerned with it. I think it's a very important matter. You may know, there's a very interesting book about the medieval side of this by a woman called Enid Wellsford called The Fool, and the function of fools in societies in general, which is the most important matter. So that we're into something very important here to do with the necessity of a challenge. How that is linked to the political, of course, it concerns us very much now, because I was listening to Robin Williams the other day on a record someone played me, in which he in fact has a remarkable set of political issues. A lot of it is just what I would call foolery rather than comedians, I may say. But that is like treading water and making the audience laugh in a conventional way. But he has some very sharpish remarks to make about the horseman and about the situation. And a hilarious parody of Jack Nicholson doing Hamlet. So there was a sense of sort of almost a Python-esque range of challenges here. So I didn't feel that the man was radical in any sense at all. I got the feeling he was comically abusive of things that he felt, and clearly a lot of the audience felt, was wrong. This is a distinction I think we have to make here, that, to come back to why I was quoting those two passages, the sheer insecurity of many Americans to do with their society, I mean white Americans, and the sheer security of, in your case, the Hopi people, and I guess in the case of totalitarian societies, insofar as they're able to convince their inhabitants, their citizens, of the absolute rightness of their condition, means that we just cannot use the words center, harmony, balance, and all those words that suggest pivot, you know, what's his name? Pound, the unwobbling pivot, and those ideas of order, traditional order, as neutral terms. And what interests me very much in the work you've been doing is to exemplify one way of using a whole set of terms which are really abused. And I find that the rejuvenation of the terminology is a very important thing going on in your poetry. But don't be irritated when I say this.
I'll try.
But it's one of the functions of language, poetry, to handling language, to be quite certain that the terminology, which appears to be so fixed, because that's what totalitarian styles want, is in fact only functional, to use the phrase somewhere in your poems, I can't find it now, in terms of usage, that is, that happiness is a function of society, as someone said.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't. That doesn't irritate me at all. You know it.
Well, I was thinking about you didn't seem to want to be too interested in those poets who do with Hills Press and this magazine and so forth. I think that's what they're doing, and they're certainly doing it from a very lively and alert standpoint. They're not going to stand any nonsense when people come on either confessional or propagandistic. One of the things I like very much about the Hopi poem, more in the new one, I guess I can call them new, I noticed the date 1933, which rather startled me at the end of the blue poem one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, never mind. But what I'm concerned with is there is a rejuvenation of certain key political terms in these poems.
It was in 1973.
83.
83, yeah. Right.
I thought it was later than that. But my feeling is that there's a rejuvenation or a reconsideration of key terms of order. That's their politics, and their political poem is very strongly indeed.
Well, I'll have to check out more of that. I must admit that I haven't read everything they've done, and I certainly haven't studied it or followed it. So,
You see what I'm saying about
yeah, no, I understand that.
I mean, I would like to take out, in fact, if I